sahanau bhunaktu saha viryam karamavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vimeshavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunamayam Namami Bhagavad-pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. So, the words like the word swapiti, meaning sleep. The word sleep in Sanskrit is called swapiti or swapaha. Here the author is telling if this word is self-explanatory. Swapiti is self-explanatory. How is it self-explanatory? Because swa, apa, swapa, swa, apiti, swe, swasmin, apiti, meaning going back to once. This is called self-explanatory. This is how it is self-explanatory, this particular word, swapiti. Swa, meaning swasmin. Apito bhavati, going back to oneself. Going back to oneself. Supposing you tell somebody, he is a very happy person in English. Is it not self-explanatory? You don't require another explanation. You use a word to understand which you have to use another word, then the first word is not self-explanatory. Supposing you use a word and you don't require another word to understand the first word, then the first word is self-explanatory. ये अपने आप समझाती है. Self-explanatory. Understand, no? Similarly, sleep. In English, we don't know whether the word sleep means going back to oneself. Must be some Latin, Greek term. Sleep must be some Latin, Greek, but we don't know the etymology of the word sleep. But we definitely know the etymology of the word in Sanskrit, swapa. It means going back to oneself, meaning remaining oneself, abandoning what one is not. That is called going back to oneself. Going back to oneself again, it means, it should be understood, it means only this. Going back to oneself means, like you see, a person is a wonderful man. He is a truthful man, honest man, man of patience, man of values, man of no vices. He is a man of no vices. And suddenly he picks up a vice, let us say, which is very unlike that person. It is very uncharacteristic of that person to pick up a vice, because he has been vice-free. It is very uncharacteristic of him. And then later on, with a little effort, he gives up that vice and again becomes himself. This is called going back to himself. He has gone back to his Swarupa. What does it mean? Giving up what doesn't belong to him. So what is sleep? Giving up the form which is not me. Giving up the thought which is not me. Giving up, that's called resolution. That giving up is in the form of resolution. Therefore, the word swapa is self-explanatory. Like even another word, he gives an example. Look at the word. Savayesha atma hridi tasya etadeva niruktam hridayamiti tasmat hridayamiti. Now, the word hridayam also is self-explanatory. How is the word hridayam self-explanatory? Hridi, I am. It can also be hridi, I am. It can mean hridi means in the thought, I am means the self, that which is there in the thought, that which is in equation with the thought, that which is in equation with the body. Or hrit means awareness, I am means the body, hridayam means the tie between the consciousness and the body. But it is better to say hridi, I am hridayam. Ashikara says. Hrit means here, hridi means, hridi means, the thought. So the consciousness that is there in every thought, in equation with the thought, it is there in the thought, as the very source of the thought, as the very support of the thought, as the very resolving point of the thought, and also identified with the thought. As the source of the thought, as it is there in the thought, as the source of it, as the support of it, as the resolving point of it, as that it is Ishvara, and as identified with it, Jiva. The very source of the thought, support of the thought, the end of the thought itself comes to equate with the thought. That equation means, I am the thought. The source of the thought, the Ishvara, feels the notion that I am the thought, becomes a Jiva. Because who else identifies with the thought anyway? Who else identifies with the body? Who else really identifies with the wave? The source of the wave, the support of the wave, the resolving point of the wave itself has to entertain a notion that I am the wave. Therefore himself is Ishvara, himself is Jiva. It is evident that it is the Ishvara which is seen as Jiva is self-evident. Bahut badi baat hai ji. That it is the Ishvara that views himself as Jiva is evident but ununderstood. It is evident, obvious. But obvious does not mean what is obvious need not be understood. Because we can miss also the obvious. We can miss the obvious. That way everything is obvious. The truth is obvious, Srishti is obvious, consciousness is obvious, everything is obvious. That doesn't mean we don't require education. Because we need to understand only the obvious. We don't need to understand what is not obvious. Because what is not obvious doesn't impinge upon my life. What is not obvious, it doesn't affect me. Nor there is the existence of something and yet not obvious. Everything that exists has to be obvious. It should be either pramana siddham or swata siddham. That is called being obvious. Either it has to be sense evident or it has to be self-evident. And therefore everything has to be, it is the obvious that we miss. I don't miss what is happening, I don't miss the heaven. I miss. It's not that, I make a mistake about heaven. I don't make a mistake about Indra. Indra hai ya Chandra hai ya aur kuch hai. It is not evident to me. It is interesting. I can make a mistake about the moon. Is it the moon or the sun? Sometimes on a Purnima day, when I see it at 6 o'clock, so is it the moon or the sun? I can make a mistake. The mistake is always made about. If it is obvious, why does one make a mistake? Because he doesn't understand the obvious as it is. Law of gravitation is obvious anyway, but does not understand. Thus, coming back to the point, it is evident that it is Ishvara that is seen as Jiva. Parameshvara that is seeing itself as Jiva. How it is the source of the thought, support of the thought, end of the thought, the material for the thought, that is also equated with the thought. That equation is called Adhyasa. It is the source of the body, support of the body, the material for the body, that is equated with the body. It is the material for the whole state that gets equated with a given form. That is why it is called Hridayam. So the word Hridayam is also self-explanatory, because Hridayam means that which exists in the thought. That which exists in the thought is called Hridayam. Another word, Yathava. Now let us move a little. Yathava. Ashanaya. There is a particular word in Shastram called Ashanaya. This word also is self-explanatory. Asha means to eat, Naya means to carry. So what carries what is eaten? That which carries what is eaten is called Ashanaya, meaning water. What carries the solids, what facilitates digestion of the solids is water. Therefore the water can be called Ashanaya. Self-explanatory. Asha means to eat what is eaten. Naya means to carry. Ashanaya means that which carries the food eaten all over the body. It's called Ashanaya. Therefore now is it self-explanatory or not? It is self-explanatory. So Ashanaya is self-explanatory. Similarly, Udanya. Udanya means with. Uda means udaka. Apayam tadasham nayate, teje eva tatpitam nayate. Udanya means udakam and naya, both are there. Udaka means water, naya means carry, that which carries water everywhere. The heat. The heat is something that handles water. Water handles the solids. And the heat handles the water as it were. Therefore, when we say Ashanaya, it automatically means water. Udanya automatically, etymologically means, that is called self-explanation. Etymologically means heat. Ashanaya means water, Udanya means heat, tejaha. In the same manner, Hridayam also etymologically means that which is present in the thought. The truth, the self that is present in the thought is called Hridayam. So the word Hridayam is self-explanatory. The word Ashanaya is self-explanatory. The word Udanya is self-explanatory. And now what does the Shruti want to say? In the same manner, Swapiti also is self-explanatory. Etymologically, it means going back to oneself. We are not trying to interpret the word. We are only getting the meaning out of its etymology. Apayeva purvadanya shabda pravritti moolam darshayati shruti yathava ashanaya, the word ashana, udanya, the word udanya, shabda, the word pravritti, its functioning, moolam, pravritti moolam means the way it functions, darshayati shruti, the shruti shows. How does the shruti show? Apayev tadashitam nayante, the waters alone carry what is eaten. Apaha means waters, eva alone, tadashitam nayante, ashitam means what is eaten, tadashitam what is eaten, nayante carry, nayante, atmanebala it is used here, actually nayanti, they carry, waters carry the solids. Similarly, Tejayeva tat pitam nayate, it is the heat that handles the water that is drunk. Iticha, evam, in this manner, swam atmanam, apne aapko, oneself. Very beautiful, look at the sentence. Swam atmanam, second case, apne aapko. What is that apne aapko? Sachabda vacham, the sense of the word truth. Sachabda vacham, the sense of the word truth. One's swarupada, which is the sense of the word, which is the meaning of the word reality. The word reality, the word truth, the word sat, the word satyam, the sense of that word reality, truth and sat is nothing but one's actuality. Swam, atmanam, sachabda vachyam, abhito bhavati, goes back. Iti, imam artham, this vision, Swapiti nama nirvachanena, through the etymology of the word Swapiti, darshayati shrutihi, shruti shows. Shruti shows that the etymological sense of the word Swapiti is going back to oneself, which is the sense of the word Sat. Going back to Sat. Going back to oneself means oneself leaving what one is not. Going back to oneself is nothing but freedom from what one is not. There is no movement. There is a resolution, not movement. Going back to oneself, there is no reference to going back. I am only translating in English as going back. Otherwise in Sanskrit, swam apito bhavati. Meaning resolving back into oneself. But actually, you don't have to go back. Just leaving what I am not. I told you the example. A good human being, a truthful man, an honest man who was free from all kinds of vices, who had no vices at all, suddenly picks up one or two vices, then later on he becomes again wiser and then gives them up. And when he gives up, then we say he has gone back to himself. Pahale अच्छा आदमी था, previously he was sharif, in between soda he became teda, and again he has gone back to Swarup. Going back to Swarup means giving up what doesn't belong. Therefore, all that one gives up in sleep is not one's nature, because one can't give up one's nature. It's a very peculiar thing. This is what can liberate a man. Not a belief in heaven. What can liberate a human being is this. You can't renounce your nature. You can't renounce your nature. Now, if one can't renounce one's nature, then by the same logic, what we renounce is not our nature. Oh, this can liberate a man. This is called really touching the unused faculty of thinking. Shastra touches man's thinking means it was age-old, for ages remaining unused faculty of thinking. For ages, the jiva has been carrying a faculty of reasoning without using it. This is unused. It touches man, that's called pramana. The line of thinking which man never knew, he never thought in that direction. That's the Shruti thing. Hey, because one thing one can understand is nature can't be renounced. To arrive at that, clinching that point is important in life. Clinching that point is very important in life. You can't renounce nature. Like the body can't renounce its nature of being objectifiable. A form can't renounce its nature of being visible and still be a form. See? Objectifiability is its nature. It can't be unobjectifiable and still be a form. You see, you have to clinch that. It's not possible. If you see that it's not possible, that's clinching. It is not possible for the body and yet remain without change. It's not possible. That is its nature, because it can't renounce its changing nature. Similarly, any state, waking, any thought, you take a given thought, a thought can't renounce its nature of having a beginning and an end and yet be a thought. In fact, when it renounces the beginningness, when it renounces supposing, when its beginning and end is falsified, if the beginning and end of thought is falsified, then the very thought is falsified. When the beginning and end of thought is falsified, then the thought is falsified. Not that there is a thought without a beginning and end. Thus, it is important for us to clinch this particular topic, that nature can't be renounced. Then it can give us prasadam. What is the prasadam? Hey, all that I can renounce is not my nature. And renouncing means, you see, to be free from it. Therefore, in the dream we are free from the waking. Therefore, none of the waking details is our nature. We are not a form. Our identity is not in the form of an objectifiable form. We are not an objectifiable sound. We are not a form. We are not a sound. We are not an object of taste, touch, smell. We are a conscious. We are the witness of them. The witness doesn't enjoy the quality of being a form, etc. Therefore, the waking form is not our nature, dream form is not our nature, to be inside time, etc. is not our nature, because in deep sleep we become free from The waking form, waking time, dream time, past, future, individuality, in fact, all that I call as myself, all that I look upon, all the labels, all the tags that I carry about myself, all of them I renounce, means they dissolve. This is what is called going back. Going back does not mean, just traveling and reaching a point. Going back means to stand free from what I am not. Similarly, waking up also does not mean moving. There is a movement. There is no movement in feeling an individual. I don't have to make any spatial movement. There is no spatial movement in feeling an individual. There is no spatial movement in standing free from the feeling of being an individual. You see? A feeling is born and a feeling dissolves. That's called Swayam Apito Bhavati. There is only a resolution of what one's nature is not. There is a resolution of what one's nature is. And therefore, now coming back to the point, Hridayam, the word is self-explanatory. Ashanaya is self-explanatory. It means water. Udanya is the word which is self-explanatory, means it carries an etymological sense. In the same manner, Swabhiti also self-explanatory. And for your information, every Sanskrit word is self-explanatory because every word derives from the root. Therefore, even the word Atma is self-explanatory. The word Atma is self-explanatory. Apnoti, Atti, Adate. These are all the sense of the word Atma. Okay, thus here he says. Now, what do you want to prove? Because here the topic is, we are dismissing the view of a Sankhyavat. The Sankhya wants to show that the source of the form, the source of matter is another matter. This much, in a very, very light manner you can pick up this Siddhanta, what they mean. Yes, forget about all the technical details. They think the source of matter is another kind of matter. Yes, the source of matter is matter. Whereas Vedanta says the source of matter, if matter has the source, then the second matter also should have third matter as its source. See, the very fact that you conclude that the matter should have a source, otherwise why should you think? Why do you want to conclude that there is a source for the matter? Because before you conclude that matter is the source of the matter, you make a fundamental conclusion that matter should have a source. Without concluding that the matter should have a source, you can't conclude matter as the source of matter. Now, if you see, that is the basic thing, you see. If that is true, that then if this matter has another matter as the source, this matter has another source, then that matter also another source. That leads to what? Regress, anavastha. That leads to anavastha. Therefore, this very conclusion, matter should have a source, that we also accept. Because there is nothing illogical that matter, if it doesn't have a source, then it should become a reality without a source. That means an absolute fact. It is without having a source means it stands on its own. It exists on its own. Meaning it should be self-existent. If the matter is self-existent, then it should not have a beginning and an end. If it begins and ends in my experience, you see, I experience the beginning of matter and end of matter. Now if it has a beginning and an end, definitely it cannot be a self-existent thing. It is beginning somewhere and ending somewhere. We can't say it is beginning in itself and ending in itself. Therefore, the Pradhanavadis always says, matter is the source of the matter. Vedavyasa, Brahma Sutras say, matter is not the source of the matter. The witness of matter is the source of the matter. The observer of the matter is the source of the matter. The consciousness is the source of the matter. How do you say that? How do you make this conclusion? We are not making any conclusion. That is our anubhava. Sushupti is not a conclusion. Sushupti is an anubhava in which there is no matter, there is no body, there is no all that is material resolves, and that itself is witnessed. The very resolution, the very negation of matter is everybody's experience. That means the witness of the resolution of the matter has not resolved. Therefore, all that resolves unto the very witness. Supposing all that resolves unto something, and that something is witnessed by the witness, if you say, then again there should be a division. It should be another matter anyway. If the matter resolves unto another matter, and that matter witness resolves, witnesses, but that's not the anubhava. Because in Sushupti, there is no sense of division. Witnessing something means sense of division. But in the deep sleep state, there is no witnessing something else. It is freedom from everything that is witnessed, not something else witnessed. Witness is a word. Witnessing means I can witness the presence of something, I can witness freedom from everything, even though we have changed the language. Witnessing something means witnessing. Witnessing the freedom from something is being without the other. Witnessing the absence of the other means being. That it's not a sense of division. There is no thought, there is no division involved. It is being without the other. That being also is an anubhava. It is being without. There is like when you see, when there is a sound, you witness it. When there is no sound, you witness the silence, let us say. Supposing you don't even just listen. Silent. When there is sound, we hear it. Let us call it, we witness the sound. And then the sound resolves. Okay? And you know, you remember, there was sound and now there is no sound. And here again we can use the language. I am witnessing the absence of the sound. I am witnessing the absence of the sound because I remember the prior presence of the sound. Did you hear it? I can still use the language that I am witnessing the absence of the sound because I remember prior presence of the sound. That is also comes with an experience. Supposing there is no reference to the prior presence of the sound, then what is it? It is again not a non-experience, it is a being, absolute silence, not relative silence. It is just myself. I remain without the sound. I remain without memory of the sound. Then I become free from the perception of the sound and memory of the sound. It is the truth. That is the truth. That is one's own being as the absolute. In deep sleep state one, there is no perception of the world. There is no memory of the world. There is a resolution of perception and memory. and my entire individuality, my entire physicality, etc., is all within perception and memory. And perception resolves, memory resolves. Perception resolves, memory resolves. Then what is it? It is a being without perception and memory. It is not anubhava. Because whatever it is, it can't transcend anubhava. It can't defy. Because it is a matter of anubhava. When I see the sound, when I hear the sound, it is a matter of anubhava. When I remember, there is no sound but I remember the sound, it is a matter of anubhava, means it is my knowledge. And when there is neither perception nor memory, that is also knowledge. Why do we say this is knowledge, that is not knowledge? Knowledge, which is not knowledge, that is not knowledge. That means if it is not a knowledge, you can't even refer to it as that. You are able to discern between this and that. You are able to discern between, to say, perception is anubhava, memory is anubhava, but freedom from perception and memory is not anubhava. If you say, then how are you able to refer? You are able to discern between perception, memory and freedom from both. In fact, you are able to discern between perception, memory and freedom from both exactly as you discern between a cow and a horse. Real. Meaning as obvious as the bibit. The difference is obvious. And therefore, here the Siddhanti is trying to prove the source of the universe is not another matter. The source of the universe is Chetanam. This is the topic. Now he gives one more argument here. He just is now concluding it. Evam swatmanam sachabda vachyam apito bhavatiti imamartham swapiti nama nirvajanena darshayati. So, now please see the next. Nacha chetanaha atma acetanam pradhanam swarupatvena pratibhadyeta. Awareness cannot be the offshoot of matter. You can't say the actuality about awareness is matter. You can't say the swarupa, the actuality. Actuality, when you go on investigating awareness, you can't trace it to matter. Like we trace wave to water, we trace water to the sand, or we trace the whole dream to the dreamer. In that manner, we can't trace the conscious being, the ulta, the reverse. We can't trace the conscious being to matter. Because if we can trace the conscious being to matter, that fact must also become a matter of my knowledge. If consciousness boils down to matter, and that fact, that consciousness boils down to matter, is registered by who? If the consciousness boils down to matter, that particular fact, that suppose, that so-called, that the consciousness boils down to matter, who has to register it? Because there is no consciousness. If there is no consciousness, then how do we establish that fact? Because to establish anything, the problem is you require the observer, the witness, the sakshi. We have a statement in the Shastra. You just listen. Nissakshikam, without a witness. you can neither prove nor disprove. Neither there is nirdharanam nor badha. Without the sakshikam, without a sakshi, you can't prove anything, you can't disprove anything. That means without the help of the truth, without the help of the unnegatable witness, you can't prove anything, you can't disprove anything. I mean, the talk doesn't, all talk has no meaning. This all talk has no meaning at all. That is why, therefore here he says, Bhashikara makes a categorical statement, Nacha chetana atma acetanam pradhanam swarupatvena pradipadyeta. It is not possible that the consciousness boils down to matter. It is not possible that consciousness resolves unto matter. Yadi punaha, in case, pradhanameva. Sometimes this word swa, the father loves the child. The literal sense of the word himself, myself. When the father says myself, the literal sense of that word myself is himself. Not anything, not his son, not his daughter, not his wife, not his house. Atma means oneself. But sometimes due to attachment, when I go back to my children, figuratively I can call them myself. So when I go back to the children, I can say I go back to myself. This is called, to be literally oneself is called Atma. To be one's own, to be belonging to oneself, that is called Atmiya. I want you have to make a little work, otherwise Anandanaya. Atma means oneself, Atmiya, something that belongs to me. My son is Atmiya, myself, Atma. My son is Atmiya. My daughter is Atmiya. In fact, all my own people, my near and dear ones are called Atmiya. Just fix these two terms. Atma literally means myself. Atma means myself. You know another secret. Unless there is a literal sense, there can't be a figurative sense. Understand? ये बहुत जरूरी है. Unless a word has a literal sense, there cannot be any figurative sense. Figurative sense is over your choice. You have a choice over figurative sense, but over literal sense, that's not by your choice, because avidhana videya bhava is there. That's not subjective. The describability of an object is not subjective. The describability of an object is not subjective. That the tree is describable in words is not subjective. There is avidhana, avidheya, bhava, over which I have no choice. Up to this it is clear. Similarly, when I stand as an individual in relation to so many other individuals, then I as an individual in relation to others, I get a word, I am describable as swa. Swa, 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 atma, swa. As different from others, swa. As different from the body, again I become swa. As different from my mind also becomes Swa. Until everything resolves, it stands available to be called by the word word. But once everything resolves, then it ceases to be the meaning of any word. You understand? Deep sleep, until everything resolves. In retrospect, I can say I go back to myself. But in deep sleep state, there is no other. There is a question of my being, because swa is a relative term. Swa means what? Myself as different from others. Similarly, myself as different from the body. Myself as different from the thought. Myself as different from anything other than myself. This continues. The existence of the truth continues to stand available for the word Swa until the discerning between it and everything else is complete. Until the discerning is complete. That means the word Swa has a literal sense. What is it? The truth, the self. That is the literal sense. Of course, it becomes the object of that word Swa in the context of, embodiment, etc. And what is the figurative sense? Now if it has a literal sense, then there has to be a figurative sense. What is the figurative sense? Atmiya. Atmiya means anyone who is very dear to me, he becomes Atmiya. Is it wrong for me? I can call him also Atma. Atma. Clear? Anyway, Pradhanavadi wants to say that when the Shruti says when he sleeps, man goes back to himself, that himself is not referring to the literal himself, is referring to the world, the matter, which is Atmiya to Purusha. Because the Purusha in equation with the body looks upon the body as his own. Purusha in equation with the body looks upon the body as his own. As his own, he is attached to the Prakriti. So, as attached to the Prakriti as something to which I am attached becomes what? Atmiya. I am myself, Atma. And the matter, Atmiya. According to the Pradhanavadi, Atma is Purusha, Prakriti is Atmiya, and Swa is a word that can be used for Atma. Literally, it can also be used for Atmiya. Therefore, Swapiti means goes back to Swa. It can mean going back to oneself, the self literally, or it can also mean going back to Prakriti. So Pradhanavadi is using the grammar, Swapiti going back to oneself, going back to Atma, it can mean going back to Atmiya. Going back to Atma means going back to Atmiya. What is Atmiya? Prakriti. Prakriti, because the Purusha loves Prakriti. His whole problem is what is attached to the body, attached to the mind. It all coming under the Prakriti. Why can't we say that? For which, keeping in view this whole argument, keeping in view this whole thinking, Bhashyakara says. So you have to keep in view all that he keeps in view. To understand that one sentence. Now see, look at the sentence. Yadi punaha, yadi in case, pradhanameva atmiyatvat, pradhanameva the matter, being atmiya, being dear to Purusha, atmiyatvat, swashabdenaiva uchete is referred to by the word swa. If you think the pradhanam is you, is referred to by the word swa. Here swa does not mean atma, but swa means atmiya, the pradhanam. If this is the argument given by the pradhanavadi, then we have problems. What is it? Evam api, even then. Chetanaha acetanam apyetyeti viruddham apadyeta. You are grammatically right, but actually wrong. Grammatically right. Grammatically right, because the swashabda can be used for atma, swashabda can be used for anatma, the atmiya, but yet there is a virodha, it goes against your anubhava. What is it? Consciousness going back to matter is a virodha, is contrary to my experience. That is called contradiction. Contradiction means it presents itself as contrary to my experience. It runs counter to what everybody experiences. Because if consciousness were to disappear into matter, then that event of disappearance of consciousness unto matter, that event has to be witnessed. Otherwise there is no proof. This should be a matter of knowledge. That is the clinching. Consciousness going back to matter should be a matter of knowledge, because that knowledge is what clinches. That anubhava is what really proves. There is no proof greater than that. There is no proof other than it. Therefore, if consciousness itself really were to disappear into matter, then that event of matter's disappearance, that event of consciousness disappearance unto matter cannot be known, cannot be registered. And if there is no knowledge, because when consciousness itself disappears, there is a question of knowledge. Then without that knowledge, then how can you make a statement? Consciousness goes back unto... You can say consciousness goes back unto matter. You can't say, if you say consciousness goes back unto matter, then you have to supplement it. Consciousness goes back unto matter, and that is my knowledge, that is everybody's knowledge. Consciousness goes back unto matter, and that is everybody's experience. You can talk. But you can't say consciousness goes back unto matter, and that is my experience. If that is your experience, then that experience has not gone back to matter. It is not easy to prove the wrong. It is easy to talk the wrong. It is easy to right the wrong, but it is not easy to prove the wrong. It is impossible to prove the wrong. It is impossible to prove the wrong. Therefore, as long as you don't have to prove, you can go on talking. Therefore, evam api chetanaha acetanam apyetyeti viruddham apadyeta. Shrutyantaram cha. In just the last couple of sentences, he says, my dear Purvapakshi, look at the Shruti. Because you have been quoting the Shruti also. You have been quoting the Shruti also. Because these Pradhanavadis, you see, their simple flaw, I will tell you, if we can pick up. I say, once I say that truth is a matter of logic, meaning we don't need a scripture, we don't need Shabda Pramanam, we don't need God's word, or we don't need some Shabda Pramanam to find out the truth. We don't have to look into any anubhava independent of sense perception. They always say, we can determine the truth with the help of our logic based on sense, data. Sense, perception, base, logic called inference. We can use it and infer the truth. We can only infer the truth. We can't know the truth. This is Sankhya. Are you able to follow? We can't have pratyaksha jnanam of that truth. Pratyaksha jnana means, you can't see the truth the way you are seeing the world. World is pratyaksha. Purusha is aparoksha. Truth of the universe cannot be pratyaksha. Truth of the universe cannot be pratyaksha and cannot be aparoksha. This is one point. And there is more fundamental to it. Vedanta's approach is, what is the truth about me? Sankhya says, what is the truth about what I see? Sankhya talks, they probe, they try to infer the source of the world. Whereas Vedanta says, what is the actuality about the self, the subject? There is a difference between their investigation, the direction of their investigation. Their very framing of the question, there is a difference. Why? Because their framing is as a flaw. The fundamental question, what is the source of the universe, as a flaw. Why? Because I have no problem about the world. My problem is, well, what is this me? Because my whole search is, I don't want to be limited, boss. I don't want to be unhappy. There my entire interest is over. I have no other interest than being free from unhappiness. I want to be free from even the possibility of unhappiness and bondage, and therefore I become the topic. Therefore, making the world a topic independent of myself as a flaw. Why? Because that questioning is not in line with my need, is not in keeping with the anubhava, is not in keeping with my need. This is called ati prasanga. There is ati prasanga. Ati prasanga means what? If the problem is something and your question is something else. And a scientist's approach also is flawed. Why? The source of the world you want to know, because we are not, there is no problem, there is no natural search to find out the source of the world. That's not the natural search in man, the choiceless urge in man is, I want to be free. I want to be and be free. I want to be and be peaceful. I want to be and be free from struggle. And therefore, myself should be the topic. What am I? Is it true that I am by nature limited, or is it true that I am by nature something else? Thus, yasmin vijñāte sarvam vijñātam bhavati. By knowing the aparoksham, the source of the world also will be known. That's not the topic. You understand? Therefore, the Vedantic questioning is, what is this observer? What are we? Are we the form, or are we Brahman? Are we Jiva, or are we unlimited? That is the topic. Atma is the topic. Jada means not the topic. They make the Jada the topic. We make the Chetana the topic. And therefore, there is a difference between them and the Vedanta. Therefore, you quote the Shruti. This is one flaw. I have shown the very fundamental flaw. And the topical flaws, millions. One of the topical flaws is simple. you say truth cannot be experienced, truth cannot be pratyaksham, truth cannot be aparoksham. Truth means truth of the universe, the source of the universe has to be a matter of anumana. They say anumana means you can only infer what could be, what might be the source of the universe. And therefore for them what is pramana? Anumana. Anumana means guesswork. A kind of a guesswork. An intelligent guesswork. It's an intelligent guesswork. I see the smoke, there should be fire. It's a kind of inference which is valid. When it comes to individual objects, inference is valid. We also look upon it as a valid means of knowledge. I don't see the fire, but I do infer there should be fire. That's a valid inference. And we live our life based on perception as well as inference. But when it comes to the whole universe, the source of the universe, you can't infer. Whereas they say the source of the universe also is a matter of inference. Okay, you are free to say that. But then be truthful. Stick to that statement. That truth has to be a matter of inference. Then why do you quote the Shruti? Is a Shabda Pramanam. Because Shabda Pramanam comes into the picture when you are trying to deal with a topic which is not the topic of Pratyaksha and Anumana. Understand? What is not available for Pratyaksha and Anumana becomes the topic of Shabda. Now one may say, Manushya Shrungam or Shasha Shrungam, rabbit's horn. A rabbit doesn't have a horn. It's not protection. Meaning, it's not there. Means what? It is not present as protection. It is not available for protection. A rabbit doesn't have horns. It's not available for protection. It is not available for Anumana. Does it mean to say that rabbit's horn becomes the topic for Shabda? Not like that. Here, aparoksham, which is there. Aparoksham, which is there. In fact, rabbit's horn cannot become the subject matter of Shabda because I use the Pratyaksha to come to know that it is not there. But the topic for Shabda is that which is and yet not Pratyaksha, not Anumana. It should be there. It should be there and not as an object of Pratyaksha and not as an object of Anumana. Then it becomes the topic of Shabda. Not just merely that which is not the topic of Pratyaksha and Anumana becomes the topic of Shabda. Meaning it should not be available for Pratyaksha, it should not be available for Anumana, but it should be there. That means, it should not be the topic of Pratyaksha, it should not be the topic of Anumana, but yet it should be there. It should be there means it should be evident to be there. If it is evident to be there, then it can only be the subject. Understand? It is only the observer. The subject alone is there as evident to be there, and yet not available for Pratyaksha and not available for Anumana. That becomes the topic for the Shastram. And therefore now Pradhanavadi says the source of the Jagat. They say first they make the Jadam as the topic, and then they say the source of the universe, and that also is matter, and that is a matter of Anumana. And Anumana means then you should not unnecessarily get into the Shabda Pramana, but they try to dabble in Shabda also. They try to quote the Shruti also. They try to interpret the statements of the Shruti to suit them. Because argument has to run on three rails. It's very important. We have a discipline of argument, not argumentation, just trying to figure out what is what. That is that kind of discussion. Purvapaksha Siddhanta, atmosphere. Trying to figure out what is what. One is, and that this is what a student also has to follow. And this is the only approach available. Supposing somebody asks you a question on the basis of Anubhava, then you negate a wrong question, let us say. You answer that question again on the basis of Anubhava. If somebody puts forward an argument on the basis of logic, then you have to negate it or answer it on the basis of logic. If somebody puts forward an argument on the basis of the pramanam, then you have to quote the same pramanam and answer the argument. Therefore, you have to answer the argument on the same basis on which he has asked the question. This is a discipline. Now, if he says, as per your shastram, the source of the world has to be matter, not chetanam. And if he quotes a Shruti, then the Siddhanti has to again quote the Shruti and say, hey, nowhere is it said that you will go back to Jnana. And that is why Siddhanti is quoting the Shruti here, which cannot be mistaken, which cannot be misinterpreted. And quickly, just a couple of minutes, just to see, we'll just see this vakya and then go. Prajnena Atmana. Prajna means, in no way can it mean Jadam. Prakrishtaya Janati iti Prajnaha Prajneva Prajna. Prajnena Atmana, with the conscious self. Jadam cannot be prajna. Prajnatma means prajnatma means jna means janati iti jna. Jna means the one who knows, called jna. Pra means what? Independent of the senses, the one who knows is called wrong. Knowledge independent of the senses. Like freedom from the Jagrata and Swapna is our knowledge. That is prajna. The prior absence of this life itself is prajna. Adi. Because we are able to see the beginning and end of life. Therefore, the very prior absence of life, the post-absence of life, the absence of the mind, before I wake up, prior to waking called Sushupti, freedom from the waking, freedom from the dream. Freedom from the waking, freedom from the dream is what? Known through the senses. Freedom from the senses and the sense objects, freedom from the body, freedom from the senses and freedom from the objects is not known through the senses, but yet it is known. That is called prajna. And the one who knows is called prajna, is the Atma, the truth. Prajnena Atmana. As with that Prajnatma. Tritiya, third case. Prajnena Atmana. Samparishvaktaha. Becoming one with. Saktaha, Parishvaktaha, Samparishvaktaha. Saj dhatu se bani hai. Nishtha pratyaya Saktaha. And then Parishvaktaha. And then Samparishvaktaha. Which I need. Means you are becoming one with, inseparable. Like you think, the wave is one with, the wave becomes one with water. That is called Samparishvaktaha. Na Bahyam Kinchana Veda. One doesn't know the outside. Na Antaram, nor something inside. In sleep, having become one with the Prajnatma means what? Renouncing all that is other than Prajnatma. There one has neither the perception of the other outside, means neither there is waking object, nor there is a thought. Bhakya means object, Andhara means one, thought. Neither there is something external nor something else internal. So thus the Shruti says, hey, when a person falls asleep, he renounces all that he is not and stands as Prajnatma and becomes free from knowing something, free from the external other or the internal other. That means he becomes free from the other. He becomes free from the other means he becomes free from the Jadam. If he becomes free from the Jadam, how can the Jadam that is not there, the resolving point of the Jadam? How can the Jadam, the Shruti is talking about the abhava of the Jadam in Sushupti. The Shruti is referring to Sushupti as a state in which there is no Jadam. In Shruti is not saying that in Sushupti Jadam stands as the resolving point of Purusha or something. The absent Jadam cannot be Laisthanam. The absent Jadam cannot be Laisthanam. And what is Shruti saying? Prajnena Atmana Ambarishvaktaha Bhagyam Kinchana Vedana Antaram. Standing as the Prajnatma, there is no other external nor other internal. And Prajnatma means what? Need not be misinterpreted. The one who knows, independent of the senses. Hey Rama. Absence of the dream. Everybody's knowledge. How does one know? Absence of the dream. Not through the waking pratyaksha pramanam, not through the jagat-sapna pratyaksha pramanam, freedom from pratyaksha pramanam, freedom from the dream. The resolution of the dream is the knowledge of the Prajnatma. Resolution of the dream is whose knowledge? Not Pramata's knowledge, but Prajnatma's knowledge. Pramata means the one who uses the pramanas, the senses. He is called Pramata as an individual. And the resolution of the sense organs is known by whom? He is called Prajna Atma. What does the Shruti say? Prajnena Atmana Samparishvakta Nakinjana Bhakyam Vedana Antaram. Vedanta says, standing as Prajnatma, renouncing the Pramatritvam and standing as Prajnatma, or even having become one with Prajnatma, one doesn't know either the external or the internal. That means Prajnatma in Sushupti, presence of Prajnatma is referred to and absence of everything else. Presence of Prajnatma is accepted, absence of everything else That means who is the Layasthanam? Prajnatma. If Prajnatma is Layasthanam, then Prajnatma is the source of reality. Nishtisthanam. Sthiti Layasthanam. And therefore, it is not easy for you to do that. Some matter is the why? Because your fundamental approach is wrong. Yes, that is over. Yadi sushuptavasthayam chetane apyayam darshayati. You can put a mark. Thus, in sushupti avastha, the Shruti shows the resolution of everything unto the Chetanatma, Prajnatma. That is the Shruti. And you can't quote the Shruti to prove something different. Because there is unanimity, there is no difference of opinion within the Shruti. This is called Samanvaya. There is no difference of opinion within the Shruti. Within the Shruti there is no difference of opinion. This is 1/3 of Samanvaya. You better be careful. I am just concluding. Shastram doesn't have a difference of opinion within itself. This is 1/3 of Samanvaya. And it has no, it doesn't differ from the universal Anubhava. That is another 1/3. And it is not illogical. If you use logic correctly in keeping with the Anubhava, it conforms to reasoning and it points out the Anubhava and the whole Shastra points out, and therefore there is no self-contradiction. There is no virodha between what Shastra says and the Anubhava. This non-virodha at any level, you see, at any level is called Samanvaya. And that is Samanvaya. And therefore you don't have, it's not that really Shastra also says something which will be useful for you as a Gurumani. We continue it later. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.